Hey guys, hello, hello. I am going live on all streams. I'm live on Instagram and I am going live on Facebook. And we're talking about entrepreneur stress and the shocking truth of the impact of entrepreneurial stress. Now, you'll hear me talk a lot about what I call the high achiever stress disorder. And it's a term that I've kind of pulled together, and I think that you'll relate, especially if you're on a live this late at night, and you may likely say that you're a creative entrepreneur if you're in my feed, that you are a highly driven woman with a lot of ambition, but fairly impatient. And if you didn't catch the Awaken Beauty podcast today, we didn't go live, but it is a restream of a personal podcast that I did last week. And yesterday, we launched the Astro Emojis live metaverse, which is the first active live metaverse in the mental health division ever in history. And so it was really a declaration for me, and really loving this team on how we're decentralizing so many things right now based on what people are asking for. And that is the decomposition of hierarchies tumbling to the ground, which is a whole nother subject. But what I wanted to focus on today were two things. And it was to bring a couple of these key factors that were in the Awaken Beauty podcast today that was launched. And you can find that on YouTube if you just Google the Awaken Beauty podcast. But it was this pattern recognition that I notice in so many creative entrepreneurs, especially now moving into the Web3 NFT space and the metaverse. And were a couple pieces that were the pattern recognition that you may recognize is the increase, the percentage, whether you're ADHD or creatives or entrepreneurial, you have a 50% increase of having an addiction. You also have a 50% increase of having some kind of sleep circadian delayed response at night. That's why you're a night owl. And oftentimes our nervous systems find that peace and quiet because we're not getting the dings on our phones, and we're not getting the dings in our email, where we find like the world shuts down for a little bit, where our nervous system, that hypervigilant nervous system, that hunter and gather that we so feel all the time because we feel feelings so much more. We feel emotions from other people around us, but we don't know why. It's why you stay up late, part of it. And there's also, we see in prison systems that many of these individuals didn't get the help that they need or get the diagnosis that they need because of that dopamine deficiency. So this creates this big storm of why entrepreneurs in the podcast today, which was the shocking truth of the brain of an entrepreneur and why it matters and why it's so important. I'm going to tell you why. These statistics really popped out at me that 10% of the workforce today is 30% of American jobs, and 10% of those individuals are true entrepreneurs and likely have ADHD. Did you know? Actually, this is a fun fact. If you are an entrepreneur, you have a 300% increase of having ADHD. That's right. Now, entrepreneurs are the first economic responders to a crisis, in which we're watching right now. And so if you're a first responder, you also create 80 to 100% of the new job market. So if we really look at the mounting severity of the stress state of the nervous system, of the mind, and how so many entrepreneurs and high achievers, especially women, struggle in silence, I really want you, and I really suggest, I'm saying this because I love you, and I think whether you are an entrepreneur or not, to really understand that you're not alone and that so many people really struggle from mental health, but it doesn't have to be that way. So number one, I always love edutainment because as someone that's very cerebral, but also very much empathic, maybe you can relate. It is so important for me to understand the logic. I want to know the science about it. And then once I do, it kind of pulls off a little bit of that shame and it kind of moves you into that understanding. And then we have to move it into the somatics. We are now done with talk therapy. You know, psychotherapy and talk therapy actually, Owen, one of my friends, we talked about this in the big Astro Emojis metaverse event yesterday in Web3 and Decentraland, that, you know, he's really about blowing up both the health insurance space as well as the psychiatry space because of the DSM, because of all the red tape, because of all the top-down systems of the insurance companies stealing the money from the people that, one, should be earning it, and number two, blocking certain services from those that need it most, just to hop through hoops of a freaking DSM just to get you the support that you need. So they have to put on some code. I have hope that the Web3 and the next decentralization, as long as we can figure it out and not pull Web2 services from the psychiatry and the mental health space into Web3, that we can transform that space and take the pressure off of health professionals and mental health professionals, whether you're like me, a hypnotherapist or a psychotherapist, and really give people the service that they need. And it's going to be transformative on what our plans are for seeing that happen. And the other piece around this was something that my friend Lori calls the 3Bs. And I have a Life in Bloom program that I bring people through, transforming their literal energetic body and helping first start somatically, which we now know, going back to that statement, that talk therapy and top-down approaches maybe give you a 38% transformation within 6 months. When you're doing somatic therapy and you're tapping into the somatic body, hypnotherapy or somatic work, you increase your chance of success to 93% within 4 sessions. That is transformational. So when you take the thread of the shocking truth about entrepreneurship and how we really fuel economies at scale in crisis and make up for 80% of the income and the new innovation in the industries, as well as the amount of pressure and the mental health that it causes this industry, I really believe by creating a little flashlight and poking it into our own reality, it really helps us nurture ourselves and make us feel a little more okay, right? So I call this the frequency trifecta effect, and it has 3 Fs. And I want you to just kind of take a moment and take a deep breath with me. Good. And release it. And just do this with me. Pretend, make it up. It doesn't matter. Subconscious mind doesn't know any difference. And just step into what we call the 3 Fs. And remember this at a time when you are feeling stressed, at the start of your week on this Sunday evening, moving into Monday. And that first F in the frequency trifecta effect is fortify. And we know all the research and the neuroscience with when you fortify your body and you stand strong in a stance and ground yourself in like a tree into the ground, the effect that you give your body, the somatics in your body, instantly will change the neurohormones in the body. The dose is what I like to call it. And I bring this through all of my neuro meditations. And when you change the dose through the first F, which is fortify the body in a stance where you feel strong, maybe even bringing your arms out. Amy Cuddy has proven this in all of her science, that you inform the body that you are ready, that you are in an informed state and you are confident. The neurochemicals that are shifted in the body instantly that increases your endorphins, and endorphins is one of them, is your dopamine. It transforms into your serotonin, then brings in your oxytocin and your endorphins. So your whole neurochemistry changes just by the first F, which is fortify the body and stand strong. And then you follow your breath, literally and deeply, and following your breath into your stomach and taking a big deep breath in, and then holding at the top changes the nervous system also instantly, and releasing the breath out and then pushing out of the breath a little bit more at the end. So you're going to hold 2 seconds at the top, hold 2, good, and then release and just hold at the bottom. And that is re-engineering your nervous system, right? Your polyvagal nervous system. And so the next, and the third and the final F in the frequency trifecta effect that changes the whole neurochemistry of the mind and the body and gets you ready or just relaxes you for whatever you're going to do next that you need confidence around, or if you just need to change the subconscious and the somatics through the body, is going to be focus. Now, this is my favorite one because this brings your conscious mind into effect. Now, one of the really important things to understand is that as high creatives or someone that is ADHD, right? With hypnotherapy, here's how I like to explain it, is that your default mode network and your amygdala are really, really good friends. And so when we're in our imagination, and I know it so well because I feel the anxiety when I'm too much in my imagination and I'm not front in my prefrontal cortex and changing back into that task positive network, and or just being conscious of what I'm being triggered by. What I teach and share with my clients in hypnotherapy is that when you're in the back of the brain, you're back in that basic primitive part of your brain and your imagination. When you have a trigger or something coming in from the experience around you and the environment, it floats beyond your, what we call the critical factor filter. And that critical factor filter is that consciousness and subconscious break. When you allow it in, you can turn up your imagination between 200 and 300%. This can cause you anxiety, or you can go and float off into a really incredible imaginary place where you feel happy. The choice is yours. But oftentimes we're ruminating and we're in our default mode network, and it just gets caught back in there based on past experiences. So it just gets in that same old rut. So hypnotherapy or somatic experience or just consciousness of taking these 3 F's and putting them into effect. Again, you're fortifying the body, bringing back that Amy Cuddy, changing the neurochemistry of the body and the neurohormones. You're moving into focusing on the flow of your breath. And then you're moving into the focus, which is the third. And now your focus is just focusing on your beliefs. And so moving out of the back of that imagination and coming and almost visualizing that coming back. And I always like to hold out my hand. If you look at my hand right here, right now, you're out in the front of your brain, right? You're in the front of your brain. You're in your prefrontal cortex, and you just stare at my hand. Now, if I release my hand and you go back in your brain, you can go back behind the critical factor filter. You can find whatever memory you want back there, and you can ruminate as long as you want back there. Come back forward and look at my hand as if you have no name, no phone number, and no address. Now you have them, but you're not feeling them presently right now or not thinking about it. And that's what I mean about switching that gauge and coming before and above the fold, right? So the focus is really shifting the beliefs, which are basically repeated and recycled thoughts that you've thought many times that become a belief. It doesn't mean it's true, and you don't have to keep it. Pretend and make it up, right? So many people in the manifestation space, right? And I am not one for positivity porn. I am also one that understands the true manifestation through hermetics, but that's another live, is that Affirmations are just going to annoy the shit out of you. But affirmations with an O, not an I, will help transform your life. Why? This is because the quality of your life is the questions that you ask. And so when you not only take those first two F's and you fortify your stancher and you pause, you bring the neurochemistry in and change your hormones. You then follow your breath and engage the polyvagal system and engage your whole nervous system. And then you move into focus and you say, this is the thing that I'm focusing on. What can I change my focus to? An affirmation is asking a question like, why am I going to sleep so well tonight? Why am I so confident? Why does every single time I turn around that I find new opportunities for a new opportunity with a key partnership? Or why does money flow to me so easily? Your reticular activating system will go to bed at night and you will wake up in the morning and you will start finding those new activities and new opportunities that are in front of you. You will start to see them because you're bringing your subconscious into the activation of being a partner in your life versus ruminating in your default mode network, letting it float wherever you want, which is not usually good. So to close it up, I wanted to give you those three F's as you go into your week. And I'm going to go ahead and just pop on my Instagram live. You can see the podcast that went out this morning, which is going to be on the Awaken Beauty podcast. So I really want you to go ahead and pop into that podcast and listen to it. Hello, everyone from Instagram Live and Facebook. And again, the key takeaways there is that, we make up or creative entrepreneurs, healers, entrepreneurs make up, 10% of the workforce, but we also equate 80% of the earning potential. It is also a situation where we are the first responders in a crisis when the economy goes down because we innovate 80% of the change in all industries. But the cost of that to an entrepreneur is 50% increase of anxiety and depression, 50% increase of ADHD tendencies and addiction. So awareness, and then bringing that awareness into the beauty of, I hope you remember the frequency trifecta effect, those three F's, that you're going to fortify your body into the ground like a strong tree, bringing your shoulders back, Amy Cuddy style, which changes the dose hormones, your dopamine, oxytocin, your serotonin and your endorphins. And then you're going to follow your breath and re-engage the nervous system. And then you're going to finally fortify the new belief, getting out of the default mode network up into the prefrontal cortex conscious mind and asking the question, instead of the old belief, which is a recycled thought, believed many times over and over again, to an affirmation, which is, what is the question that you want to ask that you want more of? Why do I fall asleep so easily at night? Why is it that every single time I turn around, I attract more and more of the right partnerships, the correct VA, the right partner for love in my life, whatever that is for you? Those three F's, the frequency trifecta effect. So last and not least, make sure that you go and grab this podcast. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it brings you some insights and also encourages you of just how brilliant you are. If you missed getting in on yesterday's first mental health in the metaverse with Astro emojis, reach out to me. We are still minting for those NFTs. And I just love everybody in the Web3 space. And really, I'm so excited to bring more immersive hypnotherapy sessions into virtual reality. More on that later. But I hope you enjoyed today's short live. I hope it helps you. Sending you all my love, all my light. Thank you, everybody. Waving at you on Instagram Live and Facebook. And I wish you a great week. All my love.